April 5th, 1992. The richest man in America lay dying. Sam Walton had built an empire that would reshape how the world shopped. 3,000 stores, $100 billion in annual sales. His name on every main street in the nation.
The Making of an Obsession. Chapter 1. Born from Dust. To understand Sam Walton's hunger, you have to understand where he came from. March 29, 1918. Born in a tiny farmhouse in Kingfisher, Oklahoma, Sam Moore Walton entered a world that was about to break. The Great Depression wasn't just an economic collapse for young Sam. It was a formative trauma. He watched his father, Thomas Walton, a farm mortgage agent, repossess land from families who had nothing left. He saw grown men weep. He learned that money wasn't just wealth, it was survival, dignity, power. Sam's mother, Nan, drilled one lesson into him daily. Work harder than everyone else, and you'll never be poor. Sam took it literally. He delivered newspapers at 4:30 a.m., then ran to football practice, then studied until midnight. Even at 15, sleep felt like weakness. At the University of Missouri, Sam majored in economics and leadership. He was voted most versatile boy, student body president, quarterback, honors student. But here's what his yearbook didn't mention. Sam had already developed the habit that would define his life. He kept a notebook. Every conversation, every business idea, every observation, written down, analyzed, weaponized. World War II interrupted Sam's ambitions. He served stateside, supervising POW camps, safely away from combat, which frustrated him. While other men fought, Sam felt like he was wasting time. He married Helen Robeson in 1943, the daughter of a wealthy Oklahoma banker. Helen would later say that Sam proposed with the same efficiency he'd later used to open stores. "I need a partner. You're smart. You're stable. Will you marry me?" Romance was never Sam's strong suit. 1945. With a $5,000 loan from Helen's father and $20,000 of his own savings, Sam bought his first store, a struggling Ben Franklin Five and Dime in Newport, Arkansas. The store was losing money. Sam was 27 years old and had everything to prove. He worked 16-hour days. He slashed prices so low that other merchants accused him of unfair competition. He drove to competitor stores, measured their layouts with a tape measure, counted their customers, studied their displays. His obsession was total, and it worked. Within 5 years, his Ben & Franklin was the most profitable in the entire franchise. And then he lost it all.
Chapter 2. The Failure That Forged Him. 1950. Sam discovered that his lease wasn't renewable. The landlord, who happened to be the father of Sam's competitor, wanted the profitable location for his own son. Sam had poured 5 years into that store, but he'd never read the fine print. He had 90 days to leave. Helen was 8 months pregnant with their 4th child. They had to start over. Most men would have been broken. Sam Walton became obsessed. He told Helen, "I will never, ever let someone else control my fate again." From that moment forward, Sam would own every building, control every lease, dominate every negotiation. The Newport failure didn't humble him, it radicalized him. The Waltons moved to Bentonville, Arkansas, population 3,000, tucked in the Ozark Mountains. It was nowhere, which was exactly Sam's plan. He opened Walton's 5 and 10 on the town square. But Sam wasn't thinking small anymore. He was thinking revolution. Sam began a ritual he'd maintained for 40 years. Every week, he'd drive hundreds of miles to visit competitors, small-town dime stores, big-city department stores, anywhere people sold things. He'd pretend to be a customer, but he was really conducting espionage. How wide were the aisles? How were products displayed? What were the price points? He'd fill notebooks with observations, then return to Bentonville and implement every good idea he'd stolen. His family rarely saw him. He'd leave Monday morning at 4 a.m. and return Friday night at 9 p.m., too exhausted to talk. Helen managed the children alone. When his son Rob asked, "Why is Dad always gone?" Helen replied, "He's building something important." But even she didn't realize what important would cost them.
Chapter 3. The Birth of Walmart. July 2, 1962. Sam Walton, now 44 years old, opened the first Walmart Discount City in Rogers, Arkansas. It was a gamble. He borrowed heavily. The building was cheap, old garage converted with harsh fluorescent lights and concrete floors. The motto? We sell for less. Not catchy, but honest. Sam's strategy was radical for its time. While other retailers marked up products 45%, Sam marked up only 30% and made it back on volume. Stack it high, sell it cheap, turnover fast. He paid his employees slightly better than competitors, gave them profit sharing, and demanded total loyalty. Walmart wasn't just a store, it was a crusade. The first store succeeded. Then Sam opened another, and another. By 1970, he had 38 stores across Arkansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. By 1980, 276 stores. By 1990, 1,528 stores and $26 billion in sales. The growth was exponential, relentless, consuming. Sam's schedule became inhuman. He'd fly his own single-engine plane to visit stores, sometimes 3 or 4 in a single day. He'd inspect every department, quiz every manager, count the customers. He'd return to Bentonville late at night, work until 2 a.m. reviewing reports, then wake at 4:30 a.m. to do it again. His children grew up in his shadow. Rob, the eldest, was groomed to join the business. John, the second son, felt the crushing weight of being Sam Walton's boy. Jim tried to find his own path. Alice, the only daughter, retreated into art and horses, anything that wasn't retail. At family dinners, on the rare occasions Sam was home, he'd talk only about business, profit margins, expansion plans, competition. Helen kept the family together through sheer will, but even she was beginning to crack. Years later, she'd tell a reporter, "I raised 4 children essentially as a single mother. Sam was married to Walmart. We were just there."
Act 2. The Price of Victory. Chapter 4. The Richest Man in America. October 1985. Forbes magazine dropped a bombshell. Sam Walton, the folksy discount store owner from rural Arkansas, was now worth $2.8 billion, making him the richest man in America. Richer than the Rockefellers, richer than the Kennedys, richer than anyone. Sam hated the attention. He drove the same 1979 Ford F-150 pickup truck with coon dogs in the back. He wore the same $15 trucker caps. When reporters asked why he didn't buy a mansion, he snapped, "What would I do with it? I'm never home." It wasn't humility. It was the truth. Every Saturday at 7:30 a.m., Sam held mandatory meetings at Walmart headquarters. Managers from across the country would fly in at their own expense. Sam would lead them in the Walmart cheer, "Give me a W, give me an A ritual that felt part pep rally, part cult indoctrination. Executives who missed the meeting without a medical emergency were fired. Sam believed in these meetings religiously. They reinforced the culture: work hard, stay humble, compete ruthlessly. But there was a darker side. Managers worked 6-day weeks minimum. Sundays were for family, but also for preparing Monday reports. Burnout was rampant. Divorces were common. But Sam saw it as necessary sacrifice. To the public, Sam Walton was America's folksy billionaire, proof that hard work and small-town values could conquer the world. But inside the Walton home, a different story was unfolding. A story of children who barely knew their father, and a father who was about to face the consequences.
Chapter 5. The Cracks in the Empire. John Walton, Sam's second son, was the family's wounded prince. A decorated Vietnam War veteran and Green Beret, John returned from the war with demons Sam didn't understand and didn't have time to address. John struggled with alcohol. He struggled with the suffocating expectation to join Walmart. He struggled with feeling invisible next to his father's towering legacy. John tried to make his own way, starting a boat company, dabbling in farming, anything but retail. But every venture carried the whispered judgment, "He's not as good as his father." Sam didn't understand why John wouldn't just join the family business. "I'm giving you an empire," he'd say. John would reply, "I didn't ask for an empire, I asked for a dad." By the late 1980s, Helen had reached her breaking point. One night in 1987, after Sam missed yet another family milestone, this time his grandson's birthday, Helen issued an ultimatum. She told him, "You need to choose, the stores or us, because right now you're choosing the stores every single time." Sam promised to change. He blocked off more Sundays, he planned family vacations, but within weeks, he'd be back on the road. A store in Texas needed troubleshooting. A competitor was opening nearby in Oklahoma. There was always a reason, always an emergency. Helen stopped asking. Alice Walton, Sam's only daughter, found escape in art. She'd spend hours riding horses or painting, anything to avoid the retail talk. Years later, she'd admit, "I felt like I was drowning in retail. Everything was about the stores. I didn't know if my father loved me or if he just tolerated me because I wasn't useful to the business." Jim, the youngest son, was the peacemaker, working in the business but maintaining boundaries. He loved his father, but recognized the cost. In interviews, Jim would say, "Dad built something incredible, but if you asked him what his kids' favorite subjects in school were, he couldn't tell you. He just didn't know."
Chapter 6. The Reckoning Begins. March 1990. Sam Walton was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, bone cancer. He was 72 years old. Doctors gave him 2 to 5 years. For the first time in his life, Sam Walton couldn't outwork a problem. He couldn't negotiate with death. He couldn't open a new store to distract himself from mortality. At first, Sam tried to ignore it. He kept working, kept traveling, kept holding those Saturday meetings. But the chemotherapy drained him. He'd have to sit down mid-store visit. He'd forget managers' names. Him who prided himself on remembering thousands of employees. His body was failing, and it terrified him. Cancer forces clarity. In the hospital, between treatments, Sam's children visited, and for the first time they had honest conversations. Rob asked him, "Dad, what do you want your legacy to be?" Sam started to answer with Walmart statistics, stores, sales, jobs created. Then he stopped. He looked at Rob and said, "I don't know anymore." In his final 2 years, Sam wrote his autobiography, Made in America. It was meant to be a business manual, a victory lap. But as he wrote, something shifted. Listen to this passage from chapter 21. "I have been asked if I had it to do over again, would I have done it the same way? I realized that I had concentrated on business to the exclusion of a lot of other things. My family has paid a price for Walmart's success, the kind of price that never shows up on a financial statement." Sam tried to make up for lost time. He took his grandchildren fishing on Beaver Lake. He taught them how to hunt quail, something he'd never had time to teach his own children. He told them stories from his childhood, stories his kids had never heard. He was trying, desperately, to be the grandfather he'd never been as a father. His children watched this transformation with complicated emotions. They were grateful for the effort, but they also mourned what could have been. John told his therapist, "I'm meeting my father for the first time, and he's dying. It's too late, but at least it's something." Helen held Sam's hand during treatments and wondered if he finally understood what she'd been trying to tell him for 40 years.
Act 3. The Legacy Paradox. Chapter 7. The Lessons of a Dying Titan. April 1992. Sam Walton's condition worsened. The cancer had spread. He knew his time was measured in weeks, maybe days. Walmart now had 1,928 stores and $44 billion in annual sales. He'd accomplished everything he'd set out to do, and more. So why did he feel so empty? In those final weeks, Sam did something uncharacteristic. He wrote letters, by hand, laboriously, to each of his children. They weren't business advice. They were apologies. To Rob, "I push you too hard to be me. You deserved to be yourself." To John, "I didn't know how to help you. I'm sorry I wasn't there." To Jim, "Thank you for being patient with me. I know I wasn't easy." To Alice, "I wish I'd spent more time watching you paint." Sam Walton died on April 5, 1992, at the age of 74. His funeral was held in Bentonville, not in a cathedral or grand auditorium, but in a simple church service. Walmart employees filled the pews. His children delivered eulogies. Helen sat in the front row, dry-eyed, composed. She'd already mourned the man she'd lost decades ago to ambition. Before he died, Sam shared 3 lessons with his children, wisdom born from regret. These weren't business strategies. They were life truths he'd learned too late. Lesson 1. Success without presence is hollow victory. Sam told Rob, "I built the biggest retail empire in the world, but your kids will remember me as the grandpa who showed up when I was dying, not the grandpa who was there when they were growing." Which legacy matters more? Sam had won every business battle, but he'd lost the war for connection. Lesson 2. Time is the only non-renewable resource. Sam said to Helen, "I thought I'd have time later, after the next store, after the next milestone. I spent 40 years saying later, and now there is no later. Money can be made again. Businesses can be rebuilt. But a child's 5th birthday happens once. Their high school graduation happens once. Their wedding happens once." Sam had missed most of them. Lesson 3. Legacy isn't measured in balance sheets. In his final conversation with Jim, Sam said, "Walmart will survive without me. It already is. But did I give you and your siblings something that will survive? Did I teach you how to love your families better than I loved mine? Legacy isn't what you leave behind in corporate structures. It's what you leave behind in people."
Chapter 8. The Walton Children's Choice. Sam Walton left behind a fortune that would eventually exceed $150 billion, split among his widow and 4 children. They became some of the wealthiest people on earth. But here's what's remarkable. They didn't repeat their father's mistakes. Rob took over as chairman of Walmart, but with a difference. He insisted on being home for dinner 4 nights a week. He coached his kids' sports teams. He took vacations without a laptop. John, after Sam's death, found sobriety and purpose. He started a veteran support organization and focused on healing. He died tragically in a 2005 plane crash, but he'd made peace with his father's ghost. Alice took her inheritance and built one of America's finest art museums, Crystal Bridges in Bentonville. It's free to the public, a gift to the community her father built his empire in. She's poured billions into art, into beauty, into things her father never had time to appreciate. Jim focused on community banking and quiet philanthropy, helping small businesses, funding education. He tells his own children, "Money is a tool, not a scorecard." Helen lived until 2007, 15 years after Sam. She spent those years surrounded by children and grandchildren, finally getting the family time she'd craved. She never remarried. When asked if she still loved Sam despite everything, she said, "I loved him. I just wish he'd loved us as much as he loved his stores."
Chapter 9. The Warning for Our Generation. Sam Walton's story isn't ancient history. It's happening right now. Every day, ambitious men and women convince themselves just one more deal, one more promotion, one more year, and then I'll focus on family. They miss dance recitals for conference calls. They work through anniversaries. They believe they're building a better future while the present slips away. If you're in your 30s or 40s building your career, hear this. You're exactly the age Sam Walton was when he started sacrificing everything for success. You have time to make a different choice. Your kids won't remember the promotion you got in 2025, but they'll remember if you were at their soccer game. Your spouse won't care about your title. They'll care if you listen when they talk. And if you're older, looking back on your career, maybe you see yourself in Sam's story. Maybe you made similar choices. Here's what Sam would tell you. It's not too late for your relationships with your children or grandchildren. The past can't be changed, but the present can be lived differently. Make the call. Plan the visit. Ask the questions you never asked. Here's a simple test. Call it the Walton test. Ask your family to describe you without mentioning your job or accomplishments. Can they? Do they know your fears, your dreams, your stories from childhood? Do they know what makes you laugh at 2 a.m., what you think about when you're alone? Or are you, like Sam Walton, a successful stranger living in their home?
Closing, the Sunday dinner rule. Sam Walton's final piece of advice, whispered to Helen in the hospital, was this: make Sunday dinners sacred. No work, no distractions, just family, breaking bread, being present. It's simple, it's not revolutionary, but it's what he'd trade his entire empire for. One more Sunday dinner where he was truly there. Sam Walton built Walmart, but Walmart didn't need him to survive. His family did. And by the time he realized that, it was too late. Don't let it be too late for you. In memory of those who learned too late, and in hope for those who still have time. What would your family say about you if your job didn't exist? Leave your thoughts below.